Gosh, leave it to me. Here I am. I didn't leave you guys. I promise. All right, so let me get. Excuse me for my late. But I know it's not her fault. Um, so tap the screen. I know I'm like in a still. Tap the screen. There we go. Tap the screen. Share the live out. We're gonna have Miss Joy Hoover representing Nevada, and she will be the U.S. House District of Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, District 1. Me and my husband was just there last month, December 14th. And there were people on the plane that was coughing and sneezing on their way there and coughing and sneezing on their way back. So, hi, Miss Joy. How you doing?
Hello. Let me see if I can.
Good. Do you have your background?
Yes, I do, but let me see if I can get it up here real quick.
Okay. So while she's doing that, thank you guys for coming in. Share out the live, tap the screen. We just had a beautiful, lovely debate with John Kuiper, who is representing New Hampshire as a governor. So tonight we're having Miss Joy Hoover. And later on, Miss Jazz going to join me because I'm still like under the weather. And yeah, a whole lot of oxygen intake for me is a lot. But while Miss Hoover is getting herself together there, I'm just going to give you a little background of who Miss Joy Hoover is. She is a committed community advocate, safety activist, and business owner running as Democratic candidate for the U.S. House Representative in Nevada, 1st Congressional District. She is a founder and CEO of Esos Cosmetics. So ladies and men do wear makeup too, so check it out. We have a Las Vegas-based enterprise that grew out of her years of working in the beauty industry, where she witnessed firsthand the struggles of workers. Excuse me, particularly those in marginalized sectors. She is a mother and a Nevada native. Ms. Hoover emphasizes her grassroots, describing herself as a human who gives an S. I love her already, and has built her campaign around accountability, community safety, and elevating working families in a state long impacted by economic volatility. I'm gonna breathe. Thank you. So, so while we're waiting for Miss Hoover to come in, once again, excuse my under weather. I know I don't sound like I'm under the weather, but I really am, because I'm doing like the residue of this, whatever this flu or this thing, whatever that's going on. So her policy priorities are promote transparency in government and ensure that public officials are genuinely accountable to all community members. I know if you're looking for Miss Hoover, she's getting her stuff together. She's getting her cameras and her background together. So while she's doing it, we're just going to engage about, her background, her policy priorities, and her platform focus. She also has a platform focused on empower grassroots voices and make decision making more inclusive, so that marginalized communities feel represented. Reform systems that allow special interests predominate political influence, encourage campaign structures rooted in community contribution rather than big money. So I already like her already by being a grassroots candidate, which means she does not take money from PAC or any of these other big corporations that you have to do something for them and also going to do something for you. Like tit for tat, if you worked in the HR, human resources industry, with that kind of quote. But while we're waiting on her, please tap the screen, tap the live, share the live out. You do not have to be from Nevada to be a part of this. You can be anywhere in the U.S. And we thank you for being with us, engaging with us tonight on a Tuesday night. We're not going to be on too late because I don't know if anybody is a Pitt fan. So if you don't know what Pitt is, sure can, Miss Hoover. We can invite you back up. I got you. Okay. Miss Hoover, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Can you turn your camera on?
Yeah. 1 second.
Okay. While she's doing that, some people like Pitt season premiere tonight. So I'm excited for that tonight. If you don't know what a Pit is, it's about the emergency room, how it is, or what have you. So I'm excited about tonight as well. But I'm also excited to have Miss Hoover here. How are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Hello. Let's see. Okay.
There you go.
Got it.
All righty. So I'm going to ask OVC, can you give Miss Hoover the big screen? Oh, Miss Dick, you love that show too. Yeah, I am a Pitt fan. I love Pitt. I love the Pit. It comes on HBO tonight. But we're going to start with something very important here. We have Miss Hoover here. How are you from Nevada?
Hello. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm still under the weather. I just came from your neck of the woods in Las Vegas on December 14th. I had a great time. Me and my husband had a great time. It was my first time there in Vegas.
Really?
I had a blast. However, people were coughing and sneezing on their way there and coughing and sneezing on the way back on the plane. So I ended up getting whatever they have. And what's up with that, Joy? And I love the hat. I love it.
Thank you. Sometimes with these green screens, you can't see them as good, but it's okay. I think we're okay. I think.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Later on, I'm going to have Jazz to do the rest of the live because I'm trying to keep my oxygen level down. I just finished another town hall with Mr. John Kuiper, who is running for governor in New Hampshire, and it was fun. It was awesome, amazing guy. And I got so excited and what have you, and I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I'm about to pass out. So the OVC crew was like, look, we can't have you passing out on camera.
Yeah,
so
we'll take care of you for sure.
You're right. So, Ms. Hoover, tell us about yourself. I gave him a little snippet about you, but I want it out of your own mouth.
Yeah.
Who are you? Who is Miss Hoover that's running for the U.S. House of Representatives in Las Vegas?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I am a mama. I'm a wife. I am a local activist and someone who's worked in my community for the last 16 years. And ultimately, what I would say is I'm a human who gives a shit. I care deeply. Yeah. My whole campaign is like just a community of us that truly care about our community. And I have spent, 16 years serving the most marginalized folks in our community and seeing things and seeing how the systems continue to fail people. And so, stepping up to run for office was not in my initial plan. But I'm kind of one of those people that as problems persist, I feel like, those of us that have the ability should be stepping up to take action. And I always say action over awareness. Awareness is great, but if we're not taking action and actually committing ourselves to being the solution, then oftentimes we're part of the problem. And that's truly what we're doing and what give a shit means to me.
Absolutely. We have people who are running for Congress in the House. We have Vance Bostic for New York, District 8. And he also has that same model. He actually gives an S. And the same thing for case for Congress, the same thing. So we have some big fans out there for you, Miss Joy, and for people who are running for different offices. Thank you for joining. Please share it out. Share it out everywhere. You do not have to be from Nevada or from the famous Las Vegas to be a part of this conversation. So please invite everybody, your coworker, your mom, your dad, your children, aunts, uncles, everybody's invited. All right. So so I want to welcome everybody, including you, Miss Hoover, to our Vote Counts, also known as OVC, the TikTok Live Town Hall, a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity like Miss Joyce Hoover here, and ensure every voice is heard through education, outreach, accountability, and action. We're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time, especially here now in 2026. So join us, and remember, your vote is your power. Remember, 2026 November, guys, that's your meat and potatoes, all right? So tonight we're joining with Miss Joy Hoover, who's running for U.S. House Representative of Las Vegas, Henderson, Nevada, District 1. We'll be talking about her background and her vision of her running for the District 1. And we're going to be taking your questions live as well. So please be respectful. And if you're going to come up, you can come up, ask one or two questions, to the most, one the least. If you're shy like me, you can ask your questions out there in the chat, and the moderators will inform me and Ms. Hoover if you have any questions. But until then, feel free, kick back and relax. We're going to jump this thing off. You already told us about yourself, Miss Hoover. You want to call me Miss Hoover, Miss Joy?
Either one is totally fine.
Okay, all right. Because if I say Joy, when I just feel my mom and my dad, God bless their soul, looking down at me no, I get that unaliving stare from my parents.
First name is totally fine.
Okay, Joy, thank you. So, as a child, what comic, animation, cartoon character, or whatever character inspired you? And does that same character have that same influence on you today?
Well, so that's a funny question because I grew up actually really conservative and fundamentalist Christian, so I wasn't allowed to watch any character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I look now at some of the characters, and actually, I have two daughters who love so many characters. Like they're always coming up with new people that they're inspired by, and so I mean, I think you look at someone like Wonder Woman, or you look at there are a lot that inspire me, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm really more inspired by human stories, by people's everyday stories. And so I don't feel like I missed out too much as a kid on my character. But if I had to pick one today, it probably would be Wonder Woman.
That's awesome. And oh God, Vance took it back. No Sailor Moon. Oh my gosh, she's making me old. But that's awesome. But yes, I think all of us can relate to Wonder Woman. And you got that lasso there, that truth. That lasso going on. So that's amazing. That's awesome. So right now we're going to start off with education, which is one of my favorite agendas that I like. Matter of fact, we're going to do government, democracy, accountability. We're gonna switch it up a bit.
Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna do it. So you talked about bringing honesty, accountability back into public service. What specific reforms would you implement to ensure government transparency and rebuild public trust?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, to me, trust starts with showing up. And so that, to me, that's the start of it, is really having the representatives represent the people. And we can't represent the people if we're trading stocks that we know about, right? So banning stock trading, I think, is super pivotal. I think overturning Citizens United. We really need to get money out of politics. Like at the end of the day, we can't have everyday people run for office if we have lobbyists and corporations buying out all of our politicians, because those of us that are raising money like I am, which is there's no dark money involved, it's all with the people for the people, we can't outraise those candidates because they're, raising tens of thousands at a time while we raise $10 at a time, right? And so for me, it really is like, if we are going to truly represent the people and that the people's voices are to be heard in Congress, then we truly have to raise money with the people and by the people. And we see so often, we see votes that are happening that are not at all for the people. We're seeing Congress kind of step on the sidelines on so many major issues right now. And a lot of it is because of the dollars that they've taken by different lobbyists and that by different corporations. And we know, right, that today in America, it's not left versus right. It really is the working class versus the 1%.
Right. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing it every day. We're seeing it. So you already talked about grassroots representation. So we can go to political reform. So many voters are frustrated with money in politics.
Yep.
Would you support legislation to limit big money influence and increase accessibility for community-based candidates?
Absolutely. I think to me, that's the biggest problem with politics. One of the biggest problems, at least, is we can't have our neighbors representing neighbors, again, if we don't get big money out of politics. So we have to truly, get money out of politics, get corporations, get these lobbyists to stop buying off things for different votes and truly start to represent the people. I had someone that came up with this ad idea, which was basically that, like, I win Congress, I get up to DC, I get my salary, I get my staff, I get all the things that you get with Congress, and I get to my desk and I open up my drawer, and the top drawer is a check for $25,000 with a note that says, vote for this. What do I do? Right? And what I do is rip the check up, because I have never, ever been bought by anyone. I've never allowed myself to be bought, no matter what the situation I've been in, because I've always truly been for the people. And I think when you stand with people and when you link arms with the community members and hear their stories and see what their experiences are, it keeps you up at night, right? And so when you stand with the people, it gives you the opportunity to hear more about the stories and the experiences folks are having. And it gives you the ability to stand up to corrupt things because you truly care about the people.
Exactly. And as I got more in depth in politics, I've learned that. I'm like, oh, so that's why they were voting this certain way, because they look at the green and not even know what it means. That rhymes, so, and it's kind of like a streetwalker with her, so yeah, I see why things are the way they are because of the mean green. Thank you for answering that question, and I hope people realize that that's very important.
Yeah,
it's an important question. We're going to go to economic development and working class empowerment. So small business support. So I know you own your own business. Yep. I love those earrings.
Thank you.
I love those earrings. Yes, I love it. So can you talk a little bit about your small business support, but before you do that, you can also answer as an entrepreneur yourself.
Yeah.
What policies would you support to help small business owners and startups, especially women, and minority-owned businesses, grow and succeed?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because ultimately, only 2% of venture capital gets to women-owned businesses, and even less to Black women. And so we know that the scale is deeply tipped, way beyond what it should be. I know I'm a woman in tech too. So like women in tech, it's even fewer of us. There's even fewer of us. And For starters, for me, it's making the process more accessible, whether that's getting the different, the different LLCs, the sole proprietorships, the corporations, all of that stuff. It's confusing. And so if you don't have a well-paid attorney to get to set everything up for you, there are a lot of roadblocks just even to set up. But then you talk about funding businesses, and that funding is one of the number one issues why so many businesses either don't never get started or why they fail, because raising capital is extremely difficult. And I worked when I started my company SOS in women's tech and safety. Is a whole new category because I ended up inventing a lipstick that can, has test strips that can test your drink, and it has technology so you can push a button on the lipstick and it can send like a text message, or it can send a phone call, or it can even priority dispatch authorities to where you are.
What?
Yeah, exactly. So it was, and I'm actually not an engineer. I'm not a scientist. So I had to build a team of people that could work with me to invent this thing that I, came up with. And we had to raise capital on a dream, like literally we didn't even have a prototype as we were raising money. It was just, how do I engage my community and the people that believe in me to invest in this idea, right? And so I'm really proud to say I was able to raise $500,000, able to get our product to market. And that was through mainly angel investors. And I learned so much about angel investing. My previous career was in nonprofit, but we had a social enterprise as well, and had worked with one investor to purchase property and things like that. But to work with investors, and especially angel investors, on a totally new concept, that was brand new to me. And so I think we need to have more, first of all, more women that are giving out the finances, right? More women that are making decisions about the capital that's being given out. Because you look at stories of folks that have even failed businesses that are, trying for a second time. Talk about like the WeWork guy. He, his business, ultimately WeWork didn't end up working in the end, and they bankrupted, but then he started a new business and was able to raise millions of dollars up front for a new concept. And then you take other people who are, building businesses on a dream and a prayer, and really someone has no people are just like asking so many questions and not really believing in those everyday folks of us that are solving problems, by the way, that we've personally experienced. And so I think making capital more accessible, making the process more supported, even by like local governments. There's so many places that you have to get things by. So putting everything in one place for you to be able to access the resources you need to successfully start a business, and then access to capital by having more women in the space to be able to provide the capital, but also truly believing in women and believing in the stats, by the way. 67% of businesses that women run, they're more successful with women. That's the statistic, and yet so few women are able to actually start and succeed and raise capital for their business.
Right. I mean, can you go over with this? I'm still like,
yeah.
My
business.
What is it doing again?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a tech-enabled lipstick. Essentially, we have a Bluetooth connection that connects to an app on your phone. So you're able to fully customize in our mobile app to be able to push it once and it can like send a text message to any of your contacts. Push it twice and it can send your location and even a phone call. And then 3 times could sound a loud alarm or contact emergency services that know your location and can update it every 10 seconds, so they can priority dispatch out if you need police or fire or ambulance. And I will say, we actually saved our home from fully burning down with our lipstick. Yeah. Last year we had a fire. I guess I can't say last year now because it was in 2024, July. We had a fire burning in our attic. No smoke alarms were going off. Nothing was happening. But I was inside working while my husband and kids were outside. And my gut, I just kept feeling like my gut was like, something is wrong. My like eyes were burning. There was a weird smell, but there was, again, no smoke coming out, no smoke alarms, nothing like that. And I finally went outside. It was a while. And I finally went outside and I was like, to my husband, I'm like, babe, we need to call fire. I think there's a problem. I think we need to call the fire department. And my husband's like, I don't think so. I think we're okay. I'm like, no, my gut's telling me we need to call the fire department. So my husband calls 911, right? They put him on hold. I grab the lipstick, push the button. Right away, emergency services starts messaging me, what's your emergency? I say, we need fire right now. In 5 minutes, 2 fire trucks pulled up to our house and all the firefighters came out and immediately started, found where the fire was, started putting it out. And the captain came out and was like, if we would have come even 10 to 15 minutes later, I don't think we would have been able to save the bones of your house.
Look here. I got my pen here. I don't know if you can see it. I got my paper. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for paper. I'm going to write this down. Look here.
Yeah, it's SOS spelled ESOES Cosmetics. Our TikTok is SOS Safety. But ultimately, my entire 16 years working grassroots organizing in our community has been for women's safety and for the safety of our communities. We know that women are most vulnerable to predators, and we know that the statistic is 97% of predators are male. So while we do know males are impacted, we know women are impacted 10x the amount. And so personally, I was just really pissed off. I was working in anti-trafficking, working with thousands of clients that we got to after they were harmed. And I just kept thinking, how are we preventing harm from happening? How can we put tools in women's hands that's easily accessible? Because obviously we know there are tasers, there are firearms, there are all these things, right? But at the end of the day, a lot of people don't feel comfortable with a lot of the things that are on the market. Right. And so I felt like, the statistic is how many women wear lipstick. Almost every woman has up to 7 lipsticks in their purse. And I'm like, hey, our lipstick can be one of the products in their purse that not only is good lipstick. I'm wearing a color today that's called We Believe You. But it's actually a safety resource. And inside there's a special compartment that actually has test strips so you can test your drink to make sure it hasn't been roofied.
Look here. Look. Okay. So I'm putting this plug in for Miss Hoover. Okay. Ladies and men too. Okay. If that's what you do, go right ahead and go to, is it ESOES?
Yep. SOS Safety is the TikTok.
SOS Safety. Please, OVC, can you put that in the chat, or one of the moderators, please put that in the chat. SOS Safety. Please look that up. I mean, I had never heard that before. Jazz, if you're in the house, because she's also a tech savvy young lady as well. Look, I had never heard that before. Thank you so much, Case. I had never heard that before, and that should be for me, for young girls too, or for anybody. And plus, there are certain places you cannot have a taser. Like at my kid's school, she's in college, she's in Charlotte, and she can't have a taser on campus. So to have that, that's amazing. I wish you the best. I'm put the plug out there, people. Support Miss Hoover on this, and oh my God, I got chills down my spine right now.
And we do by the way, we do have a keychain for any of our non-lipstick wearers that can hold the test strip. So,
you got it all.
Yeah, we really do want to keep people safe. That's our number one goal. And it's been really amazing to hear the stories come out of, I felt something was off. I tested my drink. It was immediately positive. I was able to go to security, show them the test strip, to see that it was positive, and was able to get help right away. Those are not the typical stories, right? It's typically so much trauma. So yeah, that's very important to me, and important to me day to day, but also in Congress. Like, how safety to us starts with affordability. So
absolutely.
We know that when economic impact is impacting folks at a higher levels, that people are struggling with rents, they're struggling with groceries, they're struggling with just everyday things right now. Our neighbors are struggling. We know that when there's economic impact, that violence increases. And so it really, affordability is such a pivotal thing for even for safety. And so that's why my platform of safety is so important.
Absolutely. And I know that with your business, I know you're collecting data to show that this is proof
Mhm.
of what's going on in various communities with predators that's happening.
Yep.
You know, um, man, I wish we could have more time. You know what? We got to do a sidebar with you on that. That's just so amazing. That's
Thank
just so
you.
amazing. And Jazz will be up here in like 5 minutes. I told her to take her time to get herself situated. So, like with economic equity,
Yeah.
how can Congress ensure the economic growth in cities like Vegas benefits everyone,
Yeah.
including hourly workers and service industry employees who keep the economy running?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a big one, our unions, we're a big union state here in Nevada. And so we want to make sure that when we get contracts in for the new casinos that are built, or like, for instance, the A's are coming for baseball. We're getting a baseball team,
Yes.
right? But a lot of times when we get these big projects, in a lot of the legislation could be put in saying we need a certain amount of the jobs to go to our locals, to go to our local unions, to go to our local working class people. And that's not happening a lot of times. So what happens is they bring in outside, ultimately outside workers that cost less and that make the project, cheaper essentially. And so then we have all these amazing projects, our Allegiant Stadium, and we have, the A's, we have all these sports teams coming in, but the dollars aren't going back to straight to our community. They're going to states all around us. And so I think that is really pivotal. I also think minimum wage is a big one. Congress has the ability to really impact legislation around minimum wage and around how employers treat their employees, and how are they ethically paid, and are they making sure. And obviously, as a small business owner, I understand there's nuance
Right.
to the issue, because someone with a small business, it's hard to pay $20 an hour base,
Right.
but I think there can be nuance in, especially the corporations and the large corporations we see this all the time. I actually just talked to a neighbor who's in my district who works for Amazon. She has full-time job. She's in management, and she literally still can't afford rent and groceries and everything. She's still getting some subsidies, government subsidies for her and her daughter. And she can't get childcare. She's having a really hard time with childcare. So we're seeing, we have Tesla here in Nevada. We have all the big corporations, the casinos. We have Amazon. There's so many corporations here, and they're getting tax breaks while not paying their employees well. And so I think that is so pivotal to really step up for the people and say, we have to pay our people a living wage. There's no other ifs, ands, and buts around it.
Absolutely, because when I was there, me and my husband, I'm like, wow, Vegas must have it going on. But hearing it from you, since you are a native there, I'm hearing a different side of the story, and it's really crazy and informative to me as an outsider who lives in North Carolina. Go there, they're like, wow, they just got all together. I know they're pumping it in, but then it's like, are they really?
Yeah.
And to hear it from you, it's like, wow, like you would have thought me out of say, but they take care of themselves, and it's not absolutely the truth on that. But thank you for answering that question. We're going to move on ahead to, if anybody got any questions, please come up if you have any questions. If you don't want to come up, if you're shy, I put your questions in the comments. The moderators will make sure they alert me and Miss Hoover and Jazz whenever she comes up later on your questions. So don't be shy. And remember, you do not have to be from Nevada to ask questions.
Right.
Ask questions now. So when you get the answers from Miss Hoover, you can go like, hey, in Nevada,
that's right,
in District 1, they're doing this. Yeah. So let's go, people. 2026 is very important. This is very important. Please share the live, like the live. Please give the host, give Miss Joy Hoover spending her time with us. You can give me if you want to. If you're not, that's fine. But hey, we're here together. We're going to do this thing together. All right. So now we're going to. Are your questions in a comment, Vance?
The question is, what is my stance on bipartisanship, negotiation, and compromise? That's a great question. Excellent question.
You can go ahead and answer.
Should I answer that already?
Yes,
okay.
You can go ahead and answer.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, first of all, I don't want to be a politician who's like, I'm just moderate on everything, and I just, I just want everyone to like me, and I want everyone to get along. But the other piece of that is you can't get things done if you don't reach across the aisle. And one thing about my experience that is unique to me is that when I was working in anti-trafficking, we had very interesting people that were partnering together to make people safer. And the types of people we had partnering were literally like adult companies, like porn adult companies and churches. And what we would say is, can we align on the fact that people need resources, that trafficking humans is not okay, that the people that work in this industry don't have access oftentimes to legal, financial resources that most of us have. So I think to answer the question is, I think it's pivotal to put aside some disagreements to agree on things that are for the people. And I think that we can't, one of the things that's happening across the nation right now is folks like me are running for Congress that are everyday neighbors, everyday people. And we know that if we get to Congress as junior Congress people, we can only do so much. But when many of us get to Congress, we can work in coalition with one another to tackle large problems like healthcare for all, or like some of these other things that have been tried for so long, but they can't get the votes. And to me, that is so pivotal to work. We just saw Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie work together as Republican and Democrats to get the Epstein, to release the Epstein files. And that was such a beautiful example of bipartisanship coming for the people, for survivors, right? And those are the kinds of things that I'm committed to, and working with people maybe that we may not have a lot in common with, but we can come together for the people.
Absolutely. And speaking of this beautiful young lady right here, who is a tech savvy young lady right here, tech savvy, tech savvy. So, Jazz, after I do this other question for Thick, I'm gonna let you take over for community safety, healthcare, and social support. Or if you have other, if you want to do another one, then feel free. Like I said, Jasmine is helping me with this debacle, with this whatever this I have.
You gotta rest that voice, girl.
Yeah, I know you can hear it. So this is from Ms. Thick. One specific policy you'll implement to lower housing costs for local workers.
Yeah, absolutely. What the biggest thing is to make sure that corporations cannot buy up all the properties. We in Nevada have one private equity group that owns 4,500 homes and counting. And what they're doing is they're buying specific homes, but oftentimes they're multiple homes in one neighborhood. They'll buy one at way higher, so it jacks up the pricing. Mm-hmm. And then, everyday people, like my own house, like we rented for 11 years before we were able to buy a house. And we were only able to buy a house, with a tax credit, which is, to me, a second thing that I want to do is make more accessible tax credits, or like rent to own type resources. But the second thing is, our house has now went up in value, is doubled in value. We wouldn't be able to afford our own house right now.
Right.
And so I think about our everyday working class who are working so hard, sometimes multiple jobs, and still can't afford rent and still can't buy a house. And so being able to have competitive housing that's not jacked up by corporations, that everyday people have access to have generational wealth, which housing is one of the number one reasons for generational wealth, I think is extremely pivotal.
Absolutely. And one more question from Ms. Thick. Is it true tourism is down since Trump and ICE?
Yes, it definitely is. Our tourism is down significantly and it's really hurting businesses. 98, interestingly enough, in Nevada, 98% of a business are small businesses. You think about the casinos, you think about the strip and everything, but we're a very, very massive community in town for small businesses. And so it's really hurting more the small businesses. The casinos they have tax credits, they
Right.
have deep pockets, but our small businesses are suffering deeply. And it's because tourism is down and because obviously impact. So it's really hard here right now, and we're being impacted as a state more than a lot of other states are. And we really need to come together for our people and for our small businesses and for our economy, just to show up and to make sure that businesses can thrive and not just survive.
Absolutely. I'm gonna give the floor to Miss Jazz. Miss Jazz, how are you? And thank you. Thank you so much for rescuing me, my voice.
Oh,
Thank you
you're
so
more than
much.
welcome. And nice to meet you, Miss Joy.
Nice to meet you too.
Yes, I am good. So, as you just mentioned, with Sianca regarding community safety, healthcare, and social support, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and see if you're ready for a quick rapid fire style questions.
Okay.
All right. So, regarding these quick rapid fire questions, I want to know specifically regarding government democracy and accountability. So, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
What's one thing Congress should do, actually, should do tomorrow? Let's just say if they should
Yeah.
do tomorrow, that would immediately make government more transparent.
Ban stock trading.
Okay. In one word, what's missing from Washington right now?
Spine.
Okay. What does accountability look like to you in practice and not theory?
Is that in a one word?
It could be quick
Okay.
response.
Okay. Showing up for the people and being accountable to the people.
Okay, and should campaigns be powered more by big donors or grassroots voices?
Absolutely grassroots. We represent the people. We should be funded by the people, not by corporations or dark money.
Okay, and lastly, if you could fix one cost burden for families today, that could be housing, utilities, or essentials, what comes first?
To me, it's housing. Yeah, I think
All
so.
right. Thank you for
Love it.
those rapid response questions.
Yeah, that
You
was
did pretty
fun.
good, so I appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right. So if anybody has any questions regarding what Sianca just mentioned earlier, and then just some of those rapid fire questions that I just mentioned, feel free to come up and you can ask Miss Joy a question, or just put it in the chat and then we'll read it out to Miss Joy to answer for you. So we're going to go ahead and roll it over into talking about housing, infrastructure, and local community development. So regarding affordable housing, we know that rent and home prices continue to rise in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, what is your plan to make housing more affordable and stop displacement in growing cities like Las Vegas?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier a little bit, which was to ban private equity from purchasing all the homes up, right? Because they're driving up pricing, purchasing all the homes, and then our everyday local workers don't have the ability to purchase homes because they're about priced. It's not competitive at all anymore. So that to me is extremely important. But I think we also need to look at renters. In my district, there's a huge percentage of renters, and so looking at when we're increasing rent by 20%, how outrageous is that? No one can afford that, right? So looking at capping, whether it's capping rent to a certain percentage, or really just looking at what type of legislation can come forward for renters so that they have the ability to, pay their rent consistently and be able to stay in the home, not have to leave and move every year because their rent just increases by so astronomically.
I appreciate that. And then from what I learned thus far, so the current person that's holding the seat drafted a bill that is trying to help with the largest affordable housing project in Nevada. Are you more familiar with that? Can you speak to that regarding this project if you are familiar with it?
A little bit. There's been a few different bills that they're working on for both, to get corporations out of the ability to buy housing. But there's one thing, and I don't know if it's Dina Titus who's in the seat currently.
Yes,
that I'm
yes, that's
incumbent.
what I'm referring to.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know if this is what, so one thing that we're talking a lot about in our state is infills. And what that looks like is infilling homes in locations that already have access to public housing or to public transportation, to jobs, to, groceries and all that. And we have funding in Nevada actually for that specifically. And so right now we're lacking enough housing for all the people that live here. I think we're lacking like it's like at least 3,000, if not 8,000 or something like that, that we don't even have enough housing for all the people that live in our city.
And
So go
is
ahead.
that true that 90% of the people that live in the state, they concentrate more in Nevada and Reno areas? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. We have a
Okay.
lot of rural areas, but the highest populations are definitely Las Vegas, Henderson, and Reno. So
Okay.
yeah. So yeah. But yeah, so the bill that they're working on. So infills I think is a big thing. And really looking at the areas of Las Vegas that have land and how can we, get businesses or get housing there. The other piece is corporations actually there's more like dual family. So basically to have like I don't know if you saw Costco recently is they're
Yes.
putting housing above a Costco in
Yes,
California right now.
yes, I saw that just to
Yeah.
kind of help alleviate the pressure of lack of
Yep.
housing. They're
Yep.
adding apartments or just a housing in general above
Yep,
the buildings.
exactly. So it's like
Yeah,
multi-use essentially, right? So a
yeah,
business on the
yeah.
bottom
Mixed
and then
use.
housing on the top. And
Hmm.
so yeah, mixed use, exactly. So that's another thing that is working, or can work, I'll say. Can work.
Hmm.
And we've seen it work. We have some mixed use throughout Nevada, but increasing that and having more people have accessible homes again in areas where there are other things. There is public transportation, there is groceries, because when people have their items in their neighborhood, it's a lot more efficient, right? And we're not doing housing efficient right now at all.
I understand that, and I appreciate your answer on that. So, in regards to infrastructure and investment, some facts about Nevada. Right now, nearly about 16 million in federal funding was awarded in 2025 for housing and transportation infrastructure developments, particularly in the Vegas area because they have a historical west side
Mm-hmm.
within your district. So, with that being said, how would you bring more federal investment into local infrastructure? Specifically, we can talk about roads, broadband, water systems, and
Yeah.
within the rural and urban areas of your district.
So I think one of the biggest needs is transportation. We are one of the largest cities in America and don't have good transportation. We're one of the only cities that doesn't have good public transportation. And so what we have something called a monorail, which is it basically gets tourists, or if you really want everyday workers, to get from one side of the strip to the other strip, or to so basically one side of the strip to the other. But it doesn't go any further than that. So we have a transportation problem because we have more and more people moving here every day, and our roads are getting super full, and we don't have reliable and or accessible public transportation. So my goal would actually be to expand the monorail so that we have an actual light rail or some sort of like the public transportation expands from not just the strip but to downtown, the airport, and even expanding in parts of like Henderson and stuff as it continues. Obviously, it's a massive project. It would take around like $16 billion, and probably maybe even more than that if we expand it. So I know like I wouldn't be able to do that in just my time in Congress, but I can get the ball rolling and be able to bring dollars back that we can have the federal dollars match the local dollars and actually truly be able to provide that transportation piece. Because a lot of the money you just mentioned is going for, yes, it's going for new infrastructure and roads. Which all that stuff is good, but if we don't have healthy transportation for folks that lack it, even especially like right now we have Formula One, the race that is it every year. I guess we have the contract for 10 years. And it's really, really hard on the small businesses and the local working class that are coming to their jobs and making the casinos run every day. They can't get to their jobs because they literally close down a part of the strip. So it ends up being a real frustration for a lot of the locals that live in Las Vegas. So for me, affordable transportation and accessible transportation, I think is super pivotal. And we also have one of the highest rates of car accidents. And I don't know if you know this, but EMS, so our ambulance workers, they have a certain amount when they have to get their training. They have to handle a certain amount of different accidents and different fatalities, things that are happening. A lot of times they come to Las Vegas because they can get their training done in like 25% of the time because they see so much of that happening right here in Las Vegas. So having transportation like that would also decrease some of the fatalities and some of the things that are happening that impact our locals too.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of just car accidents, have you seen an increase of auto insurance rates going up in your state as well?
Massive increases.
Yes.
Massive increases. Yeah. And again, like people can't, the stat is that like half of our city doesn't even have insurance. So the kind of joke, which is kind of messed up, but is that those of us that pay for insurance are paying for us and the other person who can't afford it. And so
now is there a state requirement in Nevada for people to have auto insurance?
Yes.
I know in some states it's a requirement. Okay.
It is a requirement.
So,
yeah.
Okay. So with that being said, regarding I know I touched on the the auto insurance portion,
Yeah.
but regarding I know you touched on the transit and accessibility, but we're going to kind of dive more into the portion specifically for working class and low income. Can you tell me what that would look like to make it more accessible for low income and working class residents to access public transportation in your district?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we had a light rail, like when we look at some of the major cities, whether it's New York or, Portland or Seattle, like their transportation's incredible. And it's so much cheaper. Two, it is so much more efficient. And I think if we were to be able to build a light rail, we would have the ability of a lot of our, like in my district, there's East Las Vegas, there's parts of West Las Vegas, which you mentioned, the historic West Side. It's a lot of the low income areas, and having folks to not have to take 5 buses, 2 hours of train, because that's literally what they're doing. Sometimes it takes them 2 hours to get across the city because it's so inefficient. So if we had one light rail that was going through and expanding from the strip to downtown, to East Vegas, to, the different areas of Las Vegas, one, it would be way cheaper for them. And two, it would be so much more efficient. They're not having to sit on, buses for 5 hours or 2 hours each way. But it's also unsafe. There's a lot of areas where the bus stops are that are just out in the open. So if we had an area where it was safer for them to also wait for transportation to get on as well, again, that would lower any sort of rates of harm and of violence. And one thing we talked about is potentially putting on some sort of security guard or something on the actual light rail to actually keep people safer again. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I really hope, one of my goals is really to push that forward to see what we can do as a community, both partnering federally and locally.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate your answer on that. So there are some questions in the chat. Let me see if I can pull one out. Someone asked, how do you feel about the lithium loop?
Most locals are really disappointed in it because we could have used those dollars and those tax credits that we gave Tesla towards actual public transportation, but instead now we have, Teslas have the ability to have this kind of underground driving. And while it might help some of the transportation, it might help some of the issues, I don't think it's going to solve many of the issues that we're having. And it's more just another exclusive kind of for the higher class, that now have accessibility, and they don't need accessibility because they already have it.
Thank you for that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and roll it in talking about equity, inclusion, and innovation, specifically regarding representation and inclusion. A lot of people don't know Nevada itself is one of the most diverse states in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, if you were elected, how would you make your office reflect the diversity of your state and also listen to all communities equally?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, 36% of my district is Hispanic. And then beyond that, I think it's 14% Black. I mean, this specific district is one of the most diverse. And so on my campaign team now, my team of leadership, and then a lot of our volunteers are extremely diverse. And I am someone that has always believed that we need all types of voices to work together to truly understand the needs of the community. And I don't speak for people that I don't I can't, I've never been in their shoes, right? So my kind of idea is that I can build opportunity for those folks to speak for themselves. And that's kind of what we're doing right now in our leadership of our campaign, and as well as what I will do in building my actual team. I'm so inspired by Black women, I mean, like you can look at my team right now, but I did actually a training, a 6-month training in Nevada for politics. So it was like very, very like rigorous training that we had. And I was the only white girl in the class. And I learned in 6 months of sitting and listening to so many incredible women be able to share their stories, their experiences, and even how they were preparing to run for office differently than I had to as a white woman. It really did change me and continue to open my eyes to the inequities that exist. And so to me, it's a no-brainer.
Thank you for that. Okay, so that rolls into talking about your you being a business leader. What would you do to strengthen women's economic opportunities and leadership in business and growth?
Yeah, so I did answer that a little bit earlier, but mainly what I talked about was easier access to even building the business to start. I mean, right now there's so many different aspects that if you don't have a great attorney, it's almost impossible to get all to, cross all your T's and dot all your I's and really have it to be sustainable. But the second thing is funding. Only 2% of funding goes in venture capital to women. And so it's super pivotal that one, we have more women that are actually providing the capital and really understand the success of women businesses, because there's a statistic that like 67% of businesses that are run by businesses that are run by women are 67% more profitable. So we can see the statistics that actually women run really profitable businesses, and yet so few women are actually able to run those businesses because of lack of funding and the inability to even start the process of a business with all of the red tape that exists.
Thank you for that. And also, I just wanted to get your thoughts on this. We understand that this current administration has definitely changed their policies regarding minority groups getting access to federal contracts.
Yeah.
If you were elected, would you would you draft a certain bill in Congress or put pressure on the current or the sitting administration to restore the policies that were already there in order for people to get contracts that had access prior?
Yeah.
Because we understood that other demographics, such as Black people in general, we were underrepresented
Yeah.
in getting federal
Yeah.
contracts. So,
Yeah,
can you give me
absolutely.
your thoughts about that? Yes.
I think absolutely. I mean, I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we're literally taking DEI and businesses literally have to change language or take those programs completely out. I can't even fathom an America that's what they're trying to build it to be right now, right? And having no culture, it just blows my mind, to be honest, that the extremes that we're having, whether it is with immigration, but also with the DEI stuff. And so I think for sure putting pressure on to really help people understand DEI. I've been talking about different things, like even for accessibility things. But also, yeah, like you said, how many Black folks are losing jobs and have lost jobs this year, with this administration alone in the time that they've been in office. And what on earth would give the ability to an administration to truly take away something that needed to be there so many years ago in the first place? It's just now having the ability to have DMI in place so that folks have the opportunity, right? And now it's being completely taken away. We're rolling it back to so far. So yes, absolutely, I would put pressure on if there was legislation and we could bring coalitions together to bring legislation forward or to co-sponsor something, I absolutely would do that.
I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm going to take a question from the chat. Someone asked, can you guarantee that diverse creators benefit from the film and tax and not corporations?
Yeah, I saw that, and then a question earlier about how I feel about it. So I actually was against the film tax credit because what they actually proposed is $1.6 billion in transferable tax credits. So this would mean that Warner Bros. And like the studios, right, that they had the ability, now they could actually sell off those tax credits to say MGM or one of the casinos and give them, $500 million in tax credits for $400 billion, and then they would have that, right? So there were so many things in the legislation that would harm everyday people, and it was going to take funding. And the other thing is, like, what this in other states, they've tried it, and I think it was only like 46 cents on the dollar would actually come back to our state. So it really was, the math wasn't mathing. And I think the truth is Warner Bros. Does not need tax credits. They could easily bring Hollywood 2.0 to Nevada with what they have going on right now. And the other piece is that exactly right, is that there was nothing in there about diverse actors, creators, also even local. There was nothing in there that was requiring that our unions get all of the working that to actually build it, and that local artists and creators would actually get the ability to get the jobs. So if the bill can be, if they can, which I'm sure they will, they'll go back to it, I'm sure, in session. In Nevada, we have session every 2 years, which is a huge miss for Nevada. So it won't be 2 more years unless they call another special session like they did for this. I think that they'll move it forward, but hopefully they'll move it forward with a lot more support for our everyday working class people and for our performers and creators here in Nevada.
And speaking of creators, I ran across a couple advocacy groups that are advocating for children creators, particularly creators of children who solely are like the main face of like their YouTube channels or their TikTok accounts.
Yeah.
Or if they're a part of like their family accounts to monetize. I've came across some type of legislation they're trying to get pushed in order to protect having children's rights regarding fair monetization, because we do have, unfortunately, families that tend to take advantage of their children, knowing that it drives engagement and equals also it equals for them bigger payouts.
Yeah, of course.
Would you advocate for something like that to be drafted on the federal level?
Absolutely, 100%. I think I have 2 daughters, and we're always having conversations about social media, about, protection around children. And there's so much scientific evidence that shows what it does to a child's brain that I don't think that we're taking it serious enough for our children. And there absolutely needs to be protections in place for our children. Hands down.
Thank you for that.
Hands down.
Yes. Yeah. All right. And so I'm going to go ahead and roll it in talking about bipartisanship. So as we know, you will be representing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you'll be representing on the Democratic side, caucusing, correct?
Yep.
So a lot of times whenever you're trying to get certain legislation done, sometimes you do have to reach across the aisle to get things done. Could you tell me, how would you hold parties accountable when decisions do not reflect the community needs for you?
Yeah. Well, I talked about that a little bit earlier, of the fact that most of my career I've had the ability to bring very different types of people together to get things done for the people. So in my anti-trafficking career, we brought churches and adult companies together to say we can fight trafficking together, that there needs to be more adequate resources for folks. And so for me, bipartisanship is pivotal. But I think I brought up for the Epstein files, Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna that worked together for the release of the Epstein files. And that was a really amazing bipartisan partnership to get something for the people out. And that's the type of stuff that I think is important. I don't think that, I think that there has to be nuance. And I don't think we're that good at nuance, to be honest. But one of the things I am very passionate about is getting people that maybe disagree on a lot of other things to agree on something for the people, to really work together to make sure people have adequate support and resources. And if there's anything we need in our communities now, it's bipartisan legislation and movements moving forward to make sure economic affordability, housing, there's so many things we can agree on, I think, across the aisle right now, even healthcare, right? When you look at the studies and the stats around these healthcare for all and housing opportunities, these are bipartisan opportunities for us. And we just have to work together to listen to each other and to be able to come together to make it happen.
And if you could think of anything, could you tell me what type of reform that both Democrats and Republicans can agree upon?
Yeah.
That if you ideally could vote for it if you were elected?
Well, definitely healthcare for all. I think that's one of the most pivotal ones, and I think we are seeing both sides of the aisles that are really fighting for that. I think the other piece is really coming against corporations. We are seeing that both sides of the aisle are seeing the impact of corporations and lobbyists buying out, whether it is homes, whether it is politicians, and so I think I could definitely see being able to work together on that. But the other piece, I think if we don't move forward with the Epstein files to really fully get released and have both sides work together to really support the survivors, that's gonna be something that I really push for, because in my work in anti-trafficking and anti-violence, you see it all the time, how the powerful are protected and the survivors are always left behind. And we're seeing it right now happening. And we're seeing the constant distractions. And we just can't have it. We cannot have it. And I can definitely see both sides of the aisle working together, like we have with Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, to put legislation forward and to really put the people first.
I appreciate that. So just as a follow-up, could you paint a picture for me of how would your 2 years look? We understand the first year is you trying to get acclimated, seeing how many bills you can co-sponsor on, also keeping in touch with your constituents. Paint a picture for me of how that would look. How often would you set up town halls? Would it be more physical town halls, more virtual town halls?
Yeah.
Give me a rough idea of what your first year would look like in Congress.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that I'm doing right now with this run is that in my district, there's what's called precincts, and that's pockets of neighborhoods, and there's 257 precincts in my district. So what I'm doing is I'm building representatives for every single precinct. And that's kind of our ticket to election, right? To having ambassadors in the districts for Joy for Nevada and for what we all stand for, which is dignity, opportunity, trust, and safety. Those are our 4 values. But that isn't just to get me elected. Beyond that, once I'm elected, those 250 people will be kind of the spokesperson to the bat phone, right? They have direct contact with me while I'm in office to discuss the things that they're seeing in their communities with their neighbors. And so being able to, co-sponsor things, being able to pass, put legislation forward with the people, truly with the people's voices as they're continuing to educate themselves on what their specific precincts and neighborhoods are needing. So for me, that's the number one thing. And so then being able to have town halls with the folks, and being able to, again, be with the people on the weekends or the times when I'm not in DC, that's going to be working directly with what we're calling our block builders on, again, being connected to the people all throughout the year, not just during election season. I mean, what a concept, right? Like actually caring about the people all year long, not just to get them elected. But yeah, then being in DC, yeah, obviously we know that being a junior congresswoman, it's a lot harder to get things done. But what we're seeing is a lot of other everyday neighbors, parents, individuals that are running for office. And the goal is to coalesce once as many of us get up there as possible, and to coalesce on things like healthcare for all, on things like banning stock trading, on things like the Epstein files being released fully. And so those are the kinds of things that I'm excited to work together with new fellow congresspeople as well as seasoned folks, because again, the statistics tell us that this is what needs to move forward. And I think the truth is we know what needs to happen with our healthcare, with our education, with our housing. This is not new to anyone. But there is the inability seemingly to have a spine to work for the people and not with corporations and lobbyists, and to work across the aisles to get this stuff passed and to move it forward. So those are the things that I'll be working on, and with my neighbors in the block builder areas too.
And thank you for that. And also just wanted to follow up. Would you also stay in touch with your constituents by sending out physical mailers or emails, asking them what are some things that you would like for me to present on the floor?
Yeah.
Would you be up for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think having those block builders in place to be the eyes and ears for the people, to be able to tell me what are your neighbors wanting, right? Are they wanting more in-person town halls? Are they wanting more updates on what's happening with legislation? Are they wanting, Zoom calls, right? While I am in DC, like what are the things that the community is wanting? And I sort of envision myself as like the avatar for the people. But it is really the people working together to move District 1 forward. And if we're not listening and representing the people, then our job is representative for a reason.
Yes, absolutely. And just want to let you know that it has definitely been great having this conversation with you, Miss Joy. But before you go, I would like to ask you, tell me, what is your final message to your voters? And also let us know when are the date for the primaries, and also the date for the election as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the primary is June 9th, 2026. So, we're right here and ready. And then the November election, November, I think 4th or 5th. So I think it is the 4th. My youngest daughter's birthday, and she does not like that it's on her birthday. Because anyways, my final message really to my neighbors is ultimately that I am an everyday neighbor. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a small business owner, and I am a human who gives a shit. And at the end of the day, my work can stand on its own 2 feet, because I have stood with the marginalized and stood with the most overlooked communities for 16 years here in Nevada, to fight for people, to fight for everyday resources of healthcare, of housing, of, economic stability, and of fighting for safety and for fighting against violence. And that is exactly what I bring into office. I bring in my own experiences of knowing how to raise a family on one income, building a small business with no safety net, renting for 11 years and then being able to buy a house with a tax credit. So I don't have every experience that my neighbors have in District 1, but I do have a lot. And I am someone who can represent the people because I am one of us. And I'm super excited to bring all of our voices to DC and together here in Nevada, to come together to build people power and build resources for our everyday folks. Even that's one of the goals that we're doing. You'll see in this campaign, we have 3 goals. One is to win. The second one is to resource our neighbors now. And the third is to build people power. And every single day of this campaign so far, we have been stepping in and linking arms with our community, whether it's for food insecurity, whether it's for our animals, our local animals, our dogs or animals that need food or need resources, whether it's housing insecurity, or folks that are just really lacking the support that they need for their everyday lives. And we are standing together right now, and will continue to stand together in the future to fight for us.
Thank you for that. And one last thing before you go, I would like to invite you to our next town hall. We will be having Bree Woodson.
Okay.
That will be tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So
Okay.
if you have some extra time,
Yeah.
please stop by and listen to the conversation we'll be having with Brianna. And also be on the lookout for our email from OVC. We also will be inviting you to our candidates roundtable. We typically hold this roundtable every 2 weeks on Sundays at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be on the lookout for our email invitation for you to join our candidate roundtable. And that consists of just a group of candidates such as yourself, giving your ideas and topics and opinions about the current events of today, and also expounding upon if you want someone to know more about your policies as well. So if you want to join us, feel free, and we'll be happy to have you. But in the meantime, I want to finally thank you for joining us. It's been a great conversation, as I said before. I also want to thank OVC for holding this town hall. It has been great. And also, I want to thank the participants of this live, because if it wasn't for you keeping this conversation going, we don't know what we would do without you.
That's
and
right.
Most importantly, our team. We are a hardworking team. We have created this group from the ground up. Excuse me, sorry. And I just wanted to let them know that their work has not gone unnoticed.
Yep.
So finally, for those who are not familiar with Our Vote Counts, we are a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life, supporting candidates of integrity and ensuring that every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy. So with one informed vote at a time, please join us, because your vote is your power. And until then, see you all later and have a great night. Thank you again, Ms. Joy.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys are amazing. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.